Chapter 2. Belief and Cognitive Bias. Belief is nearly the whole of the universe, whether based on truth or not. Kurt Vonnegut Jr., Bluebeard. No matter how rational, reasonable, or logical someone claims to be, human beings rarely make decisions based on facts. They never have. People make decisions despite the facts, based on what they believe. For you to be effective, it's essential to understand belief and how it works in everyday operation. Harnessing belief is the most powerful tool you have to manipulate others. Harnessing their belief, that is, not yours. This power cannot be overestimated and is worth repeating as a core tenet of this book. Exploiting another's belief is the most powerful tool you have to get what you want. While not qualitatively different from belief in God or aliens, belief itself shouldn't be sidelined as a conception of religious experience. You need to start thinking about belief as resulting from pervasive thought processes you constantly rely on for countless mundane decisions every day. Which cereal to buy? Which is better, non-GMO, organic, sugar-free, gluten-free, fat-free, on sale? What's fact? What's fad? The truth may not be available or conclusive, or you may have more important things to worry about. So you buy a cereal you remember your dad liked. It's pretty good, so you buy it again, because you bought it last time. Then it becomes your favorite. And then it becomes the best. People come to believe something in one of two basic ways. Either through direct experience, I saw it with my own eyes, or by what an authority tells them, it must be true. General Gree reported it to the New York Times. Which one the person relies on is largely consistent and based on their personality. Once formed, beliefs will be retained, accessed, and acted upon repeatedly as a reliable source. This doesn't mean beliefs can't change. Clearly, they do all the time. But it takes special skill to change others' beliefs to suit your needs. When attempting to foment a belief, it's most effective to present the subject with the belief-generating material he generally prefers. To the direct experience person, show hard evidence, test results, samples, pictures, proofs. For the person who accepts authority, tell them the boss or God said it was so. Then leave them alone to ponder it for themselves. Belief helps them decide what to do. Alongside experience and authority, cognitive bias helps them decide what to believe.
Cognitive bias. Cognitive bias describes the pervasive tendency human beings have to latch onto specific kinds of information in order to form beliefs, even if the results may be illogical, unfounded, and otherwise insane. Even if it leads to mistakes in judgment about what is true or ultimately beneficial. And it will. But if it doesn't hurt us, if it's good for us in the moment, our minds don't care whether it's true or prudent. Our brains are constantly solving the problem of living with what's called a heuristic approach. If it's practical and sufficient in the near term, that's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect, just handy. Biases are a quick mental shorthand evolved to steer us towards safety and survival, not truth. They also control how we remember things and reinforce lasting worldviews. You are not immune. You also rely on cognitive bias all the time. While it's super useful to exploit the cognitive bias in others, you'll be better off if you can do as much rational, cold, hard, logical thinking as you can possibly stand. Try to be truthful with yourself about your own biases. This can help you steer clear of traps set by others. Reflect the beliefs of people around you back to them, liberally, as your own. It will make them like you. Don't admit your real beliefs to anybody, they will use it against you, eventually. Remember, you may be the only sociopath in the room, but you're not the only one trying to influence others in order to get their way. When you feel pressure, ask yourself, is this person using what I believe to push me into a corner? Then, if I change this belief, will it get me out of a jam? If the answer is a yes, focus on changing your mind, rather than defending your position. This is another, underused, heuristic approach which is not perfect, but useful and expedient. If you can remember it's about getting what you want, not defending what you believe, things will be infinitely easier for you. There are hundreds of biases that have been tested and verified, from the fact that people generally like things to stay the same to the fact they overestimate distances when looking down. fear of falling is adaptively protective. While we're not here to explore all the cognitive biases out there, we will expose many throughout this book when it's useful for you to exploit a bias and manipulate belief by making something handy. With the risk of dating myself, I'll illustrate a few below with quotes from Donald Trump, who drums up bias with preternatural ease, and whose stunning statements you will surely remember.
Confirmation bias. People seek, value, believe, and remember information that supports their pre-existing beliefs. At the same time, they tend to doubt, discount, forget, and ignore anything that contradicts these beliefs, a kind of factual cherry-picking. Even when it is dangerous to do so. The incredible power of confirmation bias underscores the importance of belief. Here's an example from Trump of confirmation bias in action. Well, someone's doing the raping. I mean, somebody's doing it. Who's doing the raping? Who's doing the raping? Mexicans are criminals and rapists. As part of confirmation bias, people also see ambiguous evidence as supporting their point of view, and will hold on to beliefs even in the face of contradictory evidence. Attribution bias, sometimes called self-serving bias. People tend to believe they are solely responsible for their accomplishments, and other people, or external factors are responsible for their failures. Another Trump example. If we went and got the single greatest healthcare plan in the history of the world, we would not get one Democrat vote, because they're obstructionists. If we had even a little Democrat support, just a little, like a couple of votes, you'd have everything.
Unrealistic optimism. People have an overinflated idea of where they stand in the world in relation to both chance and statistics. They believe they are more likely to win the lottery and less likely to have a heart attack than the numbers and laws of the universe suggest. Example, we will have so much winning if I get elected that you may get bored with winning. Believe me. Halo effect. People assume that if someone has one good quality, then they will have lots of other positive qualities, explained social psychologist Heidi Grant Halverson, even if there is no actual correlation. If you are handsome or charming, people will assume you are probably smart and trustworthy, too. Etc. Example, I'm really rich. And by the way, I'm not even saying that in a braggadocio, that's the kind of thinking you need for this country. Throughout this book, we will look at ways to activate and encourage bias in others when it is useful to do so. Humans will fall back on a belief, once formed, because it's easier. One of the core findings of social psychology is the fact that people are mentally lazy. They rarely, if ever, reason something through step by step from the beginning to the end. If they did, they'd never get out of the house. Halverson calls us cognitive misers, think only as much as they feel they need to, and no more. We rely on previously formed beliefs, decisions, and pathways whenever possible to preserve energy. Even the scientific method herself is subject to cognitive bias. The convention is, the simpler and more elegant the explanation is, the more probably true. This may be the case, or it may be all that we can handle. This is known as Occam's razor and gives you an unexpected opening. Keep it simple, and you are more likely to be believed. Like blinkers on a racehorse blocking out all the peripheral spectacle and narrowing the horse's vision to just that one piece of track ahead, cognitive biases are thought to be a successful adaptation to keep you from getting lost in the infinite, fractured, bright, beautiful world.
Memory bias. Memory bias is a whole subcategory with many individual biases. Memory will influence belief, both as things are happening and long after they have passed. Illusory truth effect. An amazing memory bias where repeating a statement makes it seem more likely to be true. The statement becomes familiar. It is remembered. So repeat yourself. Repeat yourself. People find statements that have been repeated as more valid or true than things they have heard just for the first time, because they sound familiar. And because of the way our minds work, what is familiar is also true. Familiar things require less effort to process, and that feeling of ease unconsciously signals truth. This is called cognitive fluency. So repeat yourself. Wearing white increases your odds of winning an argument. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. I don't have any evidence for that. But simply because I said it, Some of you will half remember this fact in a year and repeat it with confidence to someone you're trying to impress at the bar. Because you remember it, sometime down the line, you will subconsciously select a white shirt because you read this. This is predictable. I just inserted the seeds of fallacy into your worldview, which some of you will come to believe is true, just because I said it. See how easy that is? Wearing white increases your odds of winning an argument. There. I said it again. So the seed is now bigger. You're welcome.
Hindsight bias. People come to believe an event was predictable after the fact. As in, I knew it all along. When they didn't. When they couldn't. This is sometimes known as creeping determinism. As in, looking back on it, he understood with creeping determinism that he knew the plane was going to crash all along. How does the sociopath exploit this fun thing? I don't know right now. If you figure it out, let me know and I'll say, exactly. That's what I always said. Okay, so you get the idea. We'll discuss other memory biases as they come up. This is just to give you a flavor of how memory relates to belief. But wait, it gets even weirder. In time, the more pressure placed on a belief, the more arguments against it, the more emotional it becomes, the more dearly this belief is held. Even in the face of overwhelming contrary evidence, people will stand by their belief, because they believe it. As Francis Bacon wrote, the human understanding, when it has once adopted an opinion, draws all things else to support and agree with it. And though there be a greater number and weight of instances to be found on the other side, yet these it either neglects or despises, or else by some distinction sets aside or rejects. Since you don't possess empathy, the mysterious art of winning people over is often beyond you. But knowing that people rely heavily on cognitive bias to get through even the most mundane daily operations will enable you to manipulate them more easily. People rely on what they know. They're paying less attention than you might think. They're thinking less than you expect. They're often careless and sloppy. They remember conservatively and selectively. Played the right way, these appalling lapses of attention and alertness give you an advantage. This may be the most important tool you will come away with from this book, How to Manipulate Belief in Others by Recognizing and Exploiting Their Cognitive Biases.